I'm joined again today by co-host and friend Jeanine Hauck. Jeanine is a mom to 3 kids, 6 and under, and is also a coach and entrepreneur. I'm so grateful that she is here to ask insightful questions during our conversation with Rebekah Lara. Rebekah is a certified life coach and creator of the Time to Thrive program, where she helps mom entrepreneurs build their businesses while working less so they can be a caregiver without giving up their own dreams. With 2 businesses and 3 young daughters with multiple health challenges, Rebekah has streamlined her own business systems, manages it all without the overwhelm, and is passionate about helping other mom entrepreneurs calm the chaos too. You can find her Facebook group, The Thriving Mamas, to learn more. When Rebekah shares about how going after what you love can be a form of self-care, I felt like a light bulb went off for me. We even had a chance to talk about mom guilt and how we've experienced it. So many wise words to take in today. Here's our conversation. I'm very excited to welcome Rebekah Lara today. It is so nice to have you join us for the month of August with my co-host Jeanine as we talk more about the whole mompreneur area of running a business and managing a family. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you specifically like to focus on and who you serve?
I mainly help mom entrepreneurs who, more specifically, are caregivers to either their own children with medical needs or maybe elderly parents or special needs parents. Anyone who pretty much is juggling family life and trying to start or maintain a business and deal with all of those extenuating circumstances. So I focus a lot on how to be intentional with your time and also not burn out in the process.
I love that this is what you focus on specifically because I think often as an entrepreneur, whether you're a mom or not, there's a lot of things calling for your attention. But when there are extenuating circumstances, things that take even more time and intentional time that you need to set aside, it can feel overwhelming and stressful. And often we can even wonder, like, is this even possible? Is there any point in me continuing? Can I actually really do this? So that's what I'd love for you to kind of break down for us today is how do we do it? Because I know you believe we can.
Yeah, it does take some time to wrap your mind around like the belief that it is possible. I know I was stuck in that as well. I'm a mom of 3 girls, all who have special needs and chronic medical conditions, and my oldest is the survivor of acute liver failure. So I was a primary caregiver to her for 3.5 years as she was recovering. And so I definitely know from firsthand experience that like it didn't feel possible in the beginning. I would tell myself daily that I don't have time for anything. And at some point, I just hit a wall where saying that to myself over and over again, I realized it wasn't serving me. It wasn't helping me. I was never going to get where I wanted to go if I kept telling myself that. So yeah, that was the light bulb moment for me. And then it just took a lot of intention and practice after that.
I'm so curious because you were saying, like, I don't have time for that. Like, you were going through a lot in your life at that point, and I'm sure not a lot has changed. But what do you say to yourself now then?
So it's shifted over time, but I definitely, the main thought I think I have is I have plenty of time for what's most important. And getting clear on the what's most important piece is what has changed everything for me. I used to live in a life of in reaction mode all the time to whatever was happening around me, and it felt very outside of my control. And
Yeah.
so once I got clear on what was most important, both in family and business, it just shifted. And so now I do have the belief that I can make time for the most important things, but I don't have to make time for everything. So that was the difference for me.
So I have a question for you around this. When it comes to finding that balance, finding, how we're going to make that time happen, the one thing that I think of in this as well is it's not just time for the family. It's not just time for the business. It's actually time to also refill ourselves and be able to make sure we're okay because a lot is being asked of us. Where does that fit in? How do you work that out?
Great question. I wasn't working that out in the beginning at all, and burnout was a real thing that I know a lot of moms and entrepreneurs in general can relate to. So for me, again, it came down to intentionality. I used to think when I did XYZ in my day on my list, then my reward was rest or fun or whatever else I wanted to do in the day. And many of you are probably like laughing to yourself, knowing that that never happens. Like the end of the day comes and like either we ran out of time or we're too exhausted to even think straight and we just like crash. And so I had to flip that upside down, like my schedule. And so I enjoy early mornings. Not everyone does. I'm not saying you have to do it in the early morning, but for me, early mornings is it's my quiet time. It's when I, do all my self-care things. And it didn't happen overnight. I didn't do all of this on day one and it was just fabulous. But little by little, I started implementing guided meditation, reading, journaling, exercise, all of those things that we all probably aim to do. But it took time and a lot of just habit stacking. I started with one thing, and then when that was going well, I'd add in another. And so just again, being intentional with like a part of your day that you can find just for you. So whether it's during nap time or evenings or the mornings, lunchtime, it'll vary for all of us. But I schedule it basically. The short answer is I schedule it into my day. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Well, I'm actually curious because we're talking all about balance today. And I think we have to crush that myth, first of all, that balance is like everything gets equal pieces of the pie, because I just don't think that's the case anymore. But what I'm curious about, we often talk about all the things you need to do for balance and things like that. But how do you know when you're out of balance?
Hmm, good question. So I also used to strive for balance in quotes, and I realized it's not possible. Like you said, like balance to me, I'm a former math teacher and architect. So I'm very literal with that word. And so it meant like equal, equal, equal. And I couldn't achieve that. And so it just ended up backfiring. So now I prefer to use the term intentional imbalance. So I am intentionally making choices about where my time is going. And it's not going to be balanced, but it's going to be intentional. So for example, I know you had another part to that question come to in a minute, but for the summer, my kids are home. I have three daughters. They're out of school. They're here with me now. And I made a choice that I won't be giving 50% to my business and 50% to my family. It's going to be more towards my family. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. And that's my choice, right? And so I'm making those intentional choices. And then what the benefit is, my mind is not weighed down with the drama of I'm doing it wrong, I'm not doing enough, and all of that. It's like, nope, I just made this decision ahead of time and I'm at peace with it. So that's really helped me knowing that other seasons of my life, it might swing the other way. Like I might be giving more to my business when the kids are in school or, whatever the circumstances are, there will be different seasons of your life where things will be out of balance on purpose. But I think the thing that helps the most is knowing it's on purpose and you're making intentional choices because it relieves the guilt and shame, at least in my case. I'm just at peace with it now. But still, then, even though I've made that choice, even this summer, I find myself in quotes out of balance, right? So I've also learned to just trust myself more. Like when I'm feeling weighed down, when I'm starting to dread things in my day, that's my red flag, like something's wrong, and not that every day is going to be perfect. I'm not aiming for perfection, but I want to trust myself to know that I can make changes in what I intended to do to take care of myself too. There's a quote that someone shared with me that has just changed my past, I don't know, 6 months. And it's similar to the whole put your oxygen mask on first mantra, which I totally believe in too. But this takes it another level. And it's tend to your own garden first so that you have more harvest to share with others. And for me, that feels more abundant. And I know that when I take care of myself, I have more to share with my family, with my clients, and it coming from a healthier place. So as a person who was in survival mode with her daughter, with my daughter, I'm ready to go into the next stage of being out of survival and starting to thrive. So that's how I know when I'm out of balance and what I do.
For the months of July, August, and September, we are focusing on being a woman entrepreneur. I know personally that along my journey, there have been some amazing coaches who have helped me figure out exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted it to look and feel. Sometimes the overwhelm was crazy, and I needed that outside view to help simplify what I needed to focus on and to keep me accountable. My favorite thing about working with a coach is that I get more done in less time. Whether it is learning to manage my time, having step-by-step actions to complete a goal, or having someone to help me overcome limiting beliefs and mindset blocks, the coaches I have worked with have been a huge part of my success. Maybe you're looking for a coach or are curious if it's something you need. Because I believe so highly in helping women on their journey, I want to offer you something special. Each month, from July through September, I'm offering 30-minute strategy calls for free to the first 6 women who book a call with me. Each month, 6 new spots will open, and I hope you will take advantage of this time to get clear on where you are and where you want to go. I love learning about the women in my community, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what you want to create. Book your call by clicking on the link in the show notes, or go to my podcast page on my website, pursueprogress.com/podcast. These 6 spots are first come, first serve, so don't wait. Now, back to the podcast.
I love that visual, that like tend to your garden and then the harvest, because with the oxygen mask, you're only helping your one child, right?
True.
It's all your clients, your family, your neighbors, like everybody benefits around you when you're tending your own garden. So that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it really resonated with me. And I know a lot of people can probably like lean into that as well. So, yeah.
So at the beginning, when you were needing to have more time and attention on your girls and you're still trying to run a business, was there ever a point where you were thinking, I just need to wait. I have to wait till I have more energy. My girls need less of me. I have more time to give. Because that's what I hear a lot from women is I need to wait till my kids are older, or I need to wait till all the stars and moon and sun and everything lines up, and then I'll do this thing. But we have such limited time. And if we feel called to do what we want to do in our business, we need to make use of it now, or at least that's my theory. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it was a thought I used to have all the time. Someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that. One of the biggest lessons I learned when my daughter was critically ill, she was on life support for 4 weeks. Like we almost lost her. And I don't mean to sound sad and depressing, but what I learned through that was you're not guaranteed tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, whether it's going to be something like that or who knows. And I realized like all we are guaranteed is the present moment. And so that has also changed my life. So it doesn't always have to be big things that we're leaning into, but like what can we do today to make it, more enjoyable, more filled with joy, to take the next step on your goal? So I actually started my business while my daughter was still recovering in the middle of the pandemic with 3 kids home remote learning, which sounds like crazy, right? But I didn't start like I didn't go 0 to 60, I just took one small step. And it was because it lit me up. It was something creative. I had been away from work for a long time and I just knew if I just took small steps, I would eventually get there. And then when the pandemic is over and my daughter is better, I knew that the foundation I was building was going to help me when I could take off and run with it. So I always say start today, even if it's something small.
I think like I'm the same as Dawn. That's what I hear all the time. Like all of this stuff that's happening. And then a person can be like, well, take the step. And then it gets back to but all of this stuff is happening. Like, I mean, I can't, there's no space. There's nothing to move. So where did you start? I'm so curious, your personal story. What was the first step? What did that look like for you? Because often in our mind, we make it so much bigger than what it is actually.
Yes, so true. I took very simple steps in the beginning. And although now I am a coach for mom entrepreneurs, it didn't start off that way. I started my online experience blogging. Like I said, it was kind of just a creative outlet for me. I didn't have huge expectations of myself. I was just doing it because I enjoyed it and because I wanted to see where it would take me. And now I have like systems in place and I use, digital tools and I love it. But in the beginning, I just had a small bullet journal and I would put like 1 to 3 things down for the day of what I was going to accomplish. And that felt really achievable. And, I couldn't use the excuse I don't have time because I made it so small that like I couldn't argue with myself anymore. And every day that I did it, it just felt more exciting. And so I think the other key is to just build something you love. Like that's the reason I started a business because I wanted the flexibility of my time and to be able to create something that would work around my family's needs and create something I loved. And so that's what's kind of like got me going.
I hope that people who are listening are really taking in what you just said, because I think a lot of the time when I hear from women who are thinking of starting something, it's something creative. Like I would say 80% of the time, it's something creative. And yet they don't necessarily know where it's going to go or, what the end result is. They just have this desire. And yet they don't step into it because they're like, well, it doesn't seem to really have a purpose. What would you say? Because I think totally differently, and I'm sure you on the other end of this journey now must feel differently too.
Yes. I think a lot of times our brains tell us like we have to know the path, right? We have to know exactly every step and that we're going to get to the final destination and it's going to all work out, right? Otherwise, it's not worth doing. And what shifted that for me was just leaning into the journey. Like, who did I want to become in the process? What skills did I want to learn? What message should I want to share? What support did I want to give? So it was more about the present moment each day, like what I was doing. And that helped me detach from the end. Like maybe it was going to work and maybe it wasn't. And like I said, I started out as an eco friendly blogger, which is not what I'm doing today. So if I had let that stop me, like, I wouldn't have learned what I learned to get where I am today. Like, it's all a journey, and I don't regret like, there was a time where I was like, "Oh, I wasted all this time on my blog because now I am kind of pausing it?" And I realized that's not true. What I learned in that phase of my journey helped me in the next phase, which helped me, you know what I mean? So it all just builds. And so, again, the word trust is my word of the year. I'm learning to just trust in the process, trust in the journey, and just enjoy it, like enjoy the journey and detach from the outcome. And I think if we all take those little steps and we don't give up, we're going to get where we want to go. It's hard to always have that belief and remind ourselves when things are tough or not going the way we want to, but I do believe in that we'll get there if we don't give up.
I know you've been so intentional with creating your life and consistent with being so intentional with it. I want to know, what do you love the most about the life you've created now?
I love that I get to make the choices. You know what I mean? As a former teacher and architect, like I worked for other people and I didn't always have that I don't know what the word is, power maybe isn't so it sounds maybe not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like, I just love that I get to create something that supports me and fills me up, but it also supports my family and allows me to be here for them and all of their medical needs, and also gets to support other women in achieving their dreams. So that's just, I don't know. I can't ask for anything more, to be honest.
Going back to the beginning, I'm curious, what did it do for you to have this when you were dealing with so many other things in your life?
It was definitely that outlet I needed. When people talk about self-care, the first thing that pops in many of our minds are like bubble baths and things like that, which I'm not downplaying. They're great. We need them. But I needed to feel like I don't know, like a woman, like a person again. Like I wasn't just a caregiver. And so it just provided me my brain could like kind of turn off some of the other stressors in my life and focus on something more positive for a minute or an hour. And that is the self-care that I needed, even though it was starting a business, like it doesn't feel like self-care maybe to some people. But I think when you love what you do, then it is. And so I needed that. It was it was what I needed. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Well, I know a lot of reasons that, like, yes, moms don't do it because we have such a busy schedule. But I think on the other hand, it's just your kids are going to do without. Like, they're lacking something. They're not getting enough love and attention. You're being selfish by doing this. Like, all of these thoughts have come up. How have your kids reacted to you stepping into entrepreneurship?
It was a transition, obviously, and it was a transition for a lot of reasons. Because, like I said, we were in the middle of the pandemic as well. So I think what has helped me with the guilt, the mom guilt, is knowing that I'm providing them with a solid example of what's possible for them. That they don't have to just be a mom or just be a this, or you know what I mean? That it's all possible, and that they get to see an example of someone going after their dreams and not being held back. And I also encourage them to lean into what's important to them and show them that I'm not just talking about it, I'm doing it. And so they know that my business is important to me, but they also know that I run my business the way I do so that I can be there for them. And I think that helps them understand all of my goals and how it's for the family, not just for myself.
Have you noticed changes in your kids or the way that they approach situations or things like that because they've watched you as an example?
Yes, I think that our mindset as a family has changed. Like, that's one of the best things about being an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is the growth in my mindset and how that trickles down to my kids. And I try to share what I've learned on my journey through my own coaches with them. And I do think that they're able to see, I try to give examples of times when I'm failing or struggling in my business and how they can do the same when they're in sports or school or whatever it might be. So, and I definitely think they've learned healthy boundaries as well. Like, they've learned that, like, right now I'm talking to you both, and they know that this is time where I can't be interrupted. And I think that was a great thing for them to learn, that there are boundaries that we need to respect with other people.
I think this is one of the fun things, if I could say that, about being a mompreneur, is that you get to actually pass what you're learning on, both the successful parts and the days that are hard, and watching them. My kids are older, so it's been interesting because I get to see it start to come through, and listening to my older daughter tell my younger daughter something that I have said to her in the past about how to manage her day or whatever. It's an awesome part that it may take years before we see that kind of fruit come through, but it is part of the whole garden aspect that you were talking about, is seeing that next generation also thrive because of what we've chosen to do with our lives.
I
Yes. Good.
even I can't even imagine if we had those mindset skills at the age that they do. Because, like, I know there was a day that I was just tough. It was a tough day for me. I can't even remember what happened. And my 5-year-old came up to me, didn't say anything, just gave me a very long hug. She's like, "Mom, it looks like you needed this." Or situations where she's feeling overwhelmed and she'll actually go in her room, close the door, and she's like, "I just needed some me time." Imagine if we had that ability so much younger.
Yes. I feel like they need to teach this in school because it's game changing, it's life changing. Yeah. So I do feel that anyone who's an entrepreneur and has children, their kids are going to benefit. Definitely.
As a mom now, where are you at when it comes to balancing life, in that imperfect imbalance? What does it look like for you? Do you have a schedule? Do you commit certain times? Do you time block? What is it that you do that's working for you?
Yes, I definitely do all of the above. I do have a schedule, and I try to block it into chunks throughout the week so that I can be focused on my work and get those things done and then free. Usually it's like mornings are for work and afternoons I'm free to hang out with the kids and support them and whatever they need. And I've also this summer hired a babysitter to come 2 days a week for 4 hours. And that has given me that solid focus where I don't have to worry about any of it because someone else is caring for my kids. And even though that felt like a jump for me, I realized when I'm able to get more work done in less time and get the most important things out of the way, for my business, then I can enjoy so much more quality time with them and not feel as stressed and like I'm trying to cram it in everywhere. So it's definitely supported me as well. I tell my clients always to like set office hours, even if it's not the same every week, look ahead and like schedule those chunks. And then you can enjoy your free time a lot more happily because you know you have it accounted for.
So that leads really beautifully into something else I wanted to ask you. Do you feel like when we are parenting, we're running a business, we're doing all the other stuff that we have to still fit into life, is there a way for us to still get as much done without feeling like we need to be working and cramming every extra spare minute we have, staying up late after the kids go to bed, getting up earlier? What do you think?
Yes. I think again it comes down to intentionality. And so I goal set. So I know what my goals are for the summer ahead of time and I reduce my expectations on my business during that time. I'm not going to work as hard or work as much or do as much on purpose. And that allows me, like when I make the decision ahead of time, then I can release all of that mind drama about I should be doing more. I should be doing TikTok. I should be doing this. I just remind myself, nope, you made that decision ahead of time. We're not doing that now. And I kind of put it on my future list, right? Like it's a future project that I'm going to do. I use 12-week year planning. It's a book. I love it. I've adapted it for my own use, but in general, I plan in 12-week chunks. And that allows me to know what I'm focused on and to know that there's a time to do the other things in the next 12 weeks. And that's really helped me.
So I'm curious, now that you actually get the perspective of looking back at your journey, is there something that you wish you would have implemented sooner, invested in sooner, or something that you've noticed that helped you get that change that you wanted? Is there something that you wish you would have done sooner if you could give advice to yourself?
Two things come to mind. One is to trust myself more. In the beginning, I thought I needed all the courses and all the everything. I was just like grabbing information everywhere, and information is powerful, obviously. But I thought I needed that and that I couldn't trust my own intuition and decision making. So I wish I had leaned into that more so that I wouldn't feel so like scattered, right? Because I was trying all the things in the beginning. And two is just the mindset piece. That was what changed the most for my business was when I started learning more about that and how like not to let fear and overwhelm take over because I feel like that's what kind of crushes a lot of businesses is the thoughts in our heads getting to us and holding us back. So those are two things I would have done more of.
One question I ask every guest that comes on the show is which of the three P's do you relate the most to? Would it be people pleasing, perfectionism, or procrastination?
Good question. I talk about this a lot with my clients. For me, it's definitely perfectionism. I always thought I had to get everything perfect before I put it out into the world. And again, that was something that was holding me back. So, yeah, I've learned to improve in that area.
If people want to connect with you, what is the best place to find you?
I can be found on Instagram at the Rebekah Lara and also my Facebook group, which is the Thriving Mamas Facebook group, where we calm the chaos and simplify life and business.
I know that you've given everybody a freebie, and I love this. It's Time to Thrive, a mini workshop series. Can you tell us how it's going to help us?
Yes, it is a 3-part workshop series to help busy mom entrepreneurs. Anyone who has challenging life circumstances, like I said, it will help you create more time in your schedule, plan your week and prioritize your tasks, and then finally stay accountable to yourself so that you stay on track with your goals and achieve those results year after.
Thank you so much for that. I so appreciate when there's something that's so tangible that can really help people move forward. So you can find that in the show notes. You can also find all the contact info for Rebekah Lara there. And is there anything else you would like to say to our audience before we end for today?
Just thank you and for tuning in and to trust yourself and don't wait for tomorrow. Just start today, even if it's small, and know that there's a great community of women who are right alongside you.
Thank you again. And thank you, Jeanine, for showing up and hosting with me once again. It's been so great to have you for this month of August. Is there anything that you would like to add today before we end off the show?
Honestly, I just want to thank you, Rebekah, for taking those steps when you did, even when it was so uncomfortable, so that we could all benefit from your story today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.